Well, President Trump had initially planned to spend Christmas at his private club in Florida, but instead he had remained here in Washington, D.C. because of a government shutdown, which has now entered its fifth day. But it's unclear whether this trip was added in the last minute after it became apparent that this government shutdown could last for many more days. Now, it was all shrouded in secrecy. In the darkness, he landed in Iraq, and suddenly in the early morning hours he popped up there. The government shutdown was really not the only trouble he left behind here in the United States. It was also one of the worst weeks for the stock market exchange, with big losses after a public slamming by the president of the Federal Reserve and its chief because of the hiking interest rates. And it also comes right after a snap decision he has made last week to pull out of Syria, rather, despite a lot of disagreement and resistance from some of the top national security advisors. So he's essentially leaving a lot of trouble here in Washington, D.C. at a time when he really needs to rally some support from his support base.
It is, and what's his strategy in the region looking forward?
Well, he has made one important point so far, saying that the United States has no plans at all to pull out of Iraq. And that really is a message both to the Iraqi government and to back home as well. I mean, Iraq was one of the regional partners that was concerned after Trump announced his decision to pull out of Syria. Of course, the earlier pull out of Iraq was, of course, ended up in catastrophe. You'll remember Trump himself had called President Obama and Hillary Clinton, the Secretary of State at the time, as the co-founders of Daesh in the region after they pulled out of the region. So it seems that Trump, for the foreseeable future at least, remains committed to staying in its presence in Iraq. And I'm saying it is also a message to United States, because remember, his decision to pull out of Syria was met with a lot of resistance. His top military chief resigned because of that decision, which is obviously a big deal here. And there's still a lot of criticism from the opponents as well, saying that this withdrawal from Syria could essentially be a victory for strengthening Russia and Iran. And he's also making the point now that with the U.S. troops' permanent presence there in Iraq could essentially offer a base to intervene into any kind of chaos when needed inside Syria as well. So he's giving all these messages, but finally he's also said one thing that's significant. He said the United States won't be the world's policeman, which means Donald Trump still very much promotes gradually withdrawing from the troubled areas in the world where the United States has army bases.